I'm more curious about the meeting they're having.
Hermes!
And also what she means by giving the darkness over.
You were waiting for me.
You've finished talking?
Yes. We've come to a decision. My thanks for keeping Meteon company. Emmett Selk and Hythlodaeus have already retired to their rooms. There is room for you too, if you would follow me.
Wait! I want to show you something first.
Elpis flowers?
Go on. You're not the only one, Hermes. Others feel sad too. You're not alone.
I see Meteon has shared much with you. May we talk a moment?
He kind of reminds me of Ardbert. Just a little bit.
I do not think it wrong that we live for the star, that we strive to make it a better place. And yet, in carrying out my duties here, there are times when I am plagued by doubt. Do you recall what Hythlodaeus said when we first spoke of my nomination? Death is the privilege of those who have fulfilled their purpose, a choice they embrace of their own free will, and when they depart, it is always beautiful. Perhaps it is, but only for man. Creations that he deems useless are discarded with nary a second thought. Some scarcely born into the world, afforded a handful of breaths before life and potential are abruptly extinguished. We make an effort to spare them the pain, but they sense what awaits. Rage and anguish and cower in fear. And it is not beautiful. Yet no one cares. No one. So fixated are we upon the duty that we do not pause to question the method. Pain and suffering, confusion and despair, writ plain in the eyes of those poor creatures. Yet no one sees. We turn a blind eye and carry on in blissful ignorance. Not amiss. And always, always the blossoms shine pure and white. A contradiction so blatant I could scream, want to scream. How can you all accept this aberration? Then I wonder, am I the aberration for thinking thus? And I am filled with dread.
I get that. I really do.
But now I know I'm not alone. Not the only one for whom the flowers weep. Owen asked what you thought as he kneeled beside the Elpis. or if he only did it at Meteon's insistence. Nevertheless, I thank you. To know that you too have experienced suffering is a comfort.
Glad I could be of service.
To so willingly lend an ear to ease my burden, you are a strange one. The stars in the heavens. Know you what they are? Though it is too far to tell, each glittering light could be a world not unlike Aetheris. A world filled with life. So many stars, so many lives. For us, there may be no higher purpose than to live for our world. But what of the other living beings out there? What is it that gives their lives meaning? That drives them day after day after day? To pose that question to our undiscovered cousins, I created beings of Dynamis, who can traverse the vast emptiness between the stars. Meteon and her sisters.
Wait. Sisters?
Aye, sisters. She has a great many of them, and they have already departed on their journey, traveling to one star and then the next in search of life. As one might expect, exploration on such a grand scale is rife with difficulties, and thus far I've naught to show for it. But I have faith that we will make some manner of discovery ere long. And when we do, I should be glad to share our findings with you, in gratitude for your kindness. It's getting rather late. We had best find our beds. It would not do for both of us to be sleep-deprived on the morrow. Come, Meteon. Let us head back.
All right!
Now. Oh. Forgive me. Please, forgive me. May you and your kin find peace. Wherever your souls may drift in the underworld, may you find tranquil seas. Be not forgotten, in concept endure, to reclaim form and one day live again. Serve not the star, or any purpose save your own. Live again, if that be your desire. Hate, if that be your want. We are worthy. But leave your suffering behind. Lay down your burdens, be born anew. Fly high. Fly free.
Join the convocation, Hermes. You do not belong here.
Leave to replace another. To be replaced. It changes nothing. Tell me, do you think it right that we sacrifice all these lives for the sake of the star? And when the star has reached perfection, what then? If all who are satisfied choose to die, shall we all die in satisfaction? I do not know. Were I to take up the seat of Van Daniel, it would be tantamount to approving my predecessor's death. I do not know if it is right. And to be torn by such thoughts, I do not know if I am fit to represent mankind.
Hermes! Please don't be angry. It hurts so.
Forgive me. If you would still consider me in spite of everything, I beg some time to gather my thoughts. Meanwhile, Hythlodaeus, I fear I must trouble you to attend to the others.
'Tis no trouble at all. Take as long as you require.
And you, my friend, I pray you find that which you seek.
I expect
I have a feeling we're getting
we have
close.
some few matters to discuss. Shall we return to the 12 Wonders for a time? Aye. I present to you Calamelios Zephyros. Here you will find a number of testing facilities, as well as the observation hub of Poiton Oikos. Right then. Let's begin by... Well, well. An Arrhaeus. How delightful.
And what, pray tell, is that?
Ah, that's a new species of shark. We approved the concept but a few days ago.
King Shark is a shark.
Sharks are among the most popular sea creatures. Rare is the day when someone does not submit a new concept. At first, they were largely orthodox, consideration given to such things as size and environmental impact, and then a whimsical someone thought to bestow it with flight, another superior intelligence. And then the floodgates burst. Concepts with multiple heads, or arms arms and legs, and so on and so forth. It was getting absurd. A part of me wanted to tell them to go away and find something else to create, but in the end I couldn't deny their passion. And here we are.
No way.
That was too close. Are you unharmed? Well now, if it isn't a pair of familiar faces.
Vanar, that we should meet you here.
It's her.
As I mentioned earlier, the better part of the convocation holds that when we retire is when we return to the star. Well, she is not among said majority. Even after stepping down, she carries on with her work. Vanar is her name, and she is the previous Azem.
It has been a while, Hythlodaeus. You look well. Less so, Emmet Selk. I dare say the lines upon your brow have both deepened and doubled in number. A shame for one so young. You must make an effort to frown less often.
Easier said than done, thanks to your unruly successor.
How is he, if I may ask?
Incorrigible as ever. Rushed headlong into a volcano on the brink of eruption just the other day. I should be glad to share the tale in its entirety later, if you're so inclined.
Oh, you know I am. Now then, you are?
I am he.
I say, have you perchance come from the future?
She knows everything.
I do not believe we have ever met, yet I sense my magic upon you. Therefore, if I wove the enchantment, I could only have done so at a later point in time.
What manner of magic is this, if I may ask?
A traveler's ward, of course. It prevents the corruption of one's ether. I see you are not ignorant to its presence. And while there are many protective spells, the one you bear is unmistakably mine.
Hold on. From the future? That's absurd.
What is it? Are you unable to speak of the matter?
The reality to which you must return exists as a result of the final days. You cannot reshape the past to undo the tragedies of the present.
So, your actions here will not change your history, but they may yet affect the course of ours. How very exciting! I'm quite fond of delving into the unknown, and there's naught more unknown than the future. Until a moment finally arrives, we cannot know for certain what will come to pass, regardless of our supposed foreknowledge, so you needn't worry for us. More importantly, that you should go to such great lengths as to travel unto the past bespeaks the gravity of your quest. Will you not reveal it to us? Mayhap we can be of aid to your cause.
If this is true, then you've been keeping quite the secret to yourself. As a representative of the Convocation, I will hear it all. Your identity, purpose, everything.
Why don't we move to a place more conducive to calm conversation? I've been working here for some days now at an old friend's behest. If it is agreeable, we may make use of my accommodation at Poiton Oikos.
Who's her old friend?
We were meant to meet. I am certain of it. Else I wouldn't have marked you so clearly, and sent you unto myself in the past. It's precisely the sort of mischief I would get up to, and quite inspired, if I do say so myself.
Our last researcher returns. I'm afraid the Urios has no longer had the crystal, nor was I able to find it as I followed in its wake. I don't suppose you fared any better. The crystal. Well done. Wonderful. Now I can focus on your tale without that missing concept nagging at my mind. Have you always had a knack for finding things? Oh, you too. Some of us seem destined to always be searching, for ourselves and for others. Long ago, when I held the seat of Azim, I was forever trekking back and forth across the star, in search of answers to people's problems. Naturally, the need for such journeys has lessened considerably, since I entrusted the position to my whimsical successor. Yet I am still eager to come running, should an old acquaintance or new interest require my personal attention. That is what brings me to Elpis. In fact, many times has my presence been requested, my opinion sought concerning the habitat of this or that creation. Agreeing to help locate that missing crystal was a minor distraction, which now promises to become a major revelation. How strange and wonderful it is, the way one thing leads to another. Wouldn't you agree? The Azims, both mentor and student, are a force to be reckoned with. I find them a delight, personally, but they have a habit of making Emmett Selk look as if He bit down a sour grape. The problem you present is vexing enough without adding the old Azam into the equation. She wonders why these lines upon my brow grow deeper, when she herself wields the hammer and chisel. Thank you again for your timely help. Now then, 'tis time I returned to this stolen property. If you would go on ahead to my accommodation, I would join you as soon as I have attended to that task. Follow the path straight ahead to the building at the top of the slope. I have the entire place to myself, so we can speak without fear of being disturbed or overheard. Man, are we really going to tell her about Hydaelyn? Welcome to my temporary abode. Please make yourself at home while I put on some tea. She seems cool.
A wonderful aroma. I feel more relaxed already.
Would that I had sweetmeats to offer, but I travel light out of habit. There's plenty of hot water though, so please have as much tea as you like. Now then, will you tell us your tale?
That's a very long story. A calamity called the Final Days has befallen the world.
Why don't you start from the beginning?
Oh, we're telling them about everything, aren't we? Emmett. Zodiac.
Preposterous. Utterly preposterous.
While not the words I would have chosen, I too have my doubts. Much of it borders on the incredulous. What of you, Vanar?
Not knowing the precise details of the first final days, it is difficult to determine the veracity of the tale. Supposing it is all true, I must ask myself why I would do what I did. Why would I feel I had no recourse but to oppose the 14 and create this Hydaelyn? Circumstances change, of course, but it would not have been an easy decision regardless. No, there must have been a reason. One compelling enough to force me to take such drastic measures. Then there is the Elpis flower, which I said would serve as a guide. That it's of import to your mission is plain. But your presence here leads me to believe that this place also holds significance. But what could it be? What are we meant to accomplish?
Might it not be simply thus? In the future whence he came, the final days could not be averted. Mankind has no choice but to flee the star. By alerting us to that eventuality, perhaps you wish to pave the way for other futures.
Theoretically speaking, it is a possibility. Yet if that were my primary objective, I see no reason to guide our friend to Elpis specifically. The capital on Amarot, or even my own home would be more logical destinations.
True, true. I note also that Hydaelyn did not specify a point in time to which he must return. By this, it may be inferred that it was not critical that we should meet.
Alternately, she had reason to believe that our paths would converge, coincidental though it may seem.
This is quite a puzzle, and we do not have all the pieces.
Hardly any. But we do have one immutable fact. If the final days are indeed as described, they will bring death to all that I hold dear. Yet despite being afforded long years of preparation, the only provisions I could make were for flight. Nay, my first and foremost endeavor would be to find a way to forestall the coming doom.
That's what I thought.
Given that even the 14 failed, mayhap you deemed it impossible.
Nothing is impossible. This I have always believed. And if Hydaelyn is indeed me, she would believe the same.
Listen to yourself. Are you seriously entertaining the notion that you are a messianic figure in some far-fetched tale? Well, I will not. I refuse to accept that our world could be undone by some unforeseen calamity. I also take offense to my portrayal as a megalomaniacal madman. To sacrifice oneself for the star is a noble act, and I would hold those who gave themselves to this zodiac in the highest esteem. Yet, you claim I recreated Amarot and populated it with phantoms of our people? A bizarre indulgence that would be insulting to their memory. Worse still, I even invited you there. Literally invited my own downfall. Why would I do something so idiotic and inexplicable? Now, I will allow that the hypothetical task of restoring our world would be daunting in the extreme. The thought of having to bear such a burden for 1,000 lives horrifies me. But I would never forsake my duty. I would never forsake my brethren. You do not know me. I've had my fill of your fiction. I will return to my duty, and you will not bother me again.
Emmett Selk! Wait!
That's definitely how I would imagine Emmett would react.
You've seen much of Elpis already. If you have any observations to share, I should like to hear them.
I think this is pretty clear since it's one of the suggestions. Dynamis is pretty important too, but Hermes and Medion are somehow involved.
Hermes and his creation Meteon, you say? If Dynamis is the self-same energy as Akasha, as it likely seems, then those two may well be at the center of the calamity to come. This warrants further investigation. With that settled, tis time for action. The missing pieces of the puzzle are here, I'm certain of it. And when you find them, the picture my future self has painted will be complete, and you will have your answer. Now suffice it to say, I will aid you in your quest. Have faith. If Emmet Selk is the man Azam described to me, we've not seen the last of him.
Shall we begin our investigations, then? I am acquainted with Hermes, of course, but only as a visitor received by the chief overseer of Elpis. Of the man himself I know only that which is common knowledge. Thus, I suggest we fall back on the tried and true method of conversing with the locals. The observers who live here can surely tell us more of Hermes and Medion. I have a good idea of where we might begin. Ah, good timing. I finished my own investigations not long ago. So have you any new findings to share? I see. Even an expert in the field had little understanding of Medion's capabilities, let alone an awareness of Dynamis. My questions resulted in much the same answers. Hermes' colleagues view Medion as his personal project, and could provide no details beyond those which you told me. Which leads me to believe that the only person with any insignificant knowledge of Dynamis is Hermes himself. Yes, we've made some progress here, but more information is needed if we are to reach any definite conclusions. At present, the strongest link we have to the final days is the power of Dynamis and the entelechies which control it. Yet most scholars are only vaguely aware of these terms, let alone study them in depth. Except for Hermes, it seems. Thus I am inclined to stay our current course, and learn all we can about the Chief Overseer, and his familiar. And on that subject, was there aught else of note you could tell me about Medion, aside from her unorthodox method of communication? There are more like her. She and her sisters were created to journey the stars in search for intelligent life. I rather wish you had mentioned that earlier. In any event, would you care to elaborate? So these siblings of hers now travel to the great expanse in search of deeper meaning. Thank you. Though the mystery at hand remains unresolved, I feel you touched upon a vital clue, one which we should keep in mind as we continue. Next, I promise we take ourselves to Peripatella Crystalline. Not far from here. Just follow the path to the west.